This is the second half of a lecture about illusions in art, called Seeing is Believing. What is an optical illusion and what is reality? Taught by Professor Yu.
You create this protruding object. But these are pretty creative. See here, this is totally altered the way that how you're decision making, right? Because all of a sudden, wait a minute, this is just a normal building. How can they build these things? Well, they didn't build the things. Okay, so I have to talk about photography, okay? Because photography play an important role, not necessarily what you think, how the painters, the artists going to different routes because of photography, okay? Because we talk about photorealism. So, Chuck Close, looking at the painting, probably at the time he gridded that photo, and then he enlarged into a, for those who know the grading purpose. Okay, so, but what is a photography? How many people really, old folks, we know how camera work to a certain degree, right? But really how the camera work, what is really, how this thing happen? Of course, if you take, so because in the class, Arthur and Judy, we have a little chat about this topic. So what happened is, basically is a room become a pinhole camera. So it's accidental. Actually, they say Chinese discovered this like 300 BCE, okay? By accident. If you have a dark room and then you have this little hole on the wall or on the door, the image will project onto the wall.
But we have glass in this hole. Otherwise it doesn't work because the lens,
yeah.
It has to be.
But there's no lens. Really, you don't need a lens, you just have a hole. Okay? So when you have a hole, and then the image will project, but it's upside down. Exactly like camera really working. All right? So artists say, wait a minute, we can just have the image project on the wall, I will trace it. Be much more accurate. Rather than I look at model, I have to know the skills and try to draw it, paint it correctly, okay? But then people say, okay, let's just make a camera if we can capture, because rather than you go into the inside the room, you see here is the projection, but you do see how they bounce. Yeah, then it's no longer just fixed image on the wall, the opposing side of the wall. Then you can direct to where you want it by using the bouncings.
The mirrors.
Yes, mirrors and then the lens, of course. Do you see here? So here is how the artist using that accident and then start using that to trace.
So is there a hole in that wall?
Yes, do you see the hole up on your left side? And then it will shoot on the mirror and the mirror will bounce down so you can, do you see there's a little curved thing? So you can raise the mirror so you can have the lens go straight down or farther angle. But these are earlier primitive mechanism of a camera. Okay? But rather than you outside the camera, you're taking something, you basically inside the camera operating it. By the time it's not permanently recorded until you trace it. And then people develop this. They say, hey, maybe we can make something. So they have this called a pinhole camera. You just have a box, all dark, sealed perfectly. There's no light leaking in it except that little hole. And then you can put whatever things can capture image, and then the chemical can make the image stay there. Then later you process it. Then it becomes the camera.
It's about nitrate, right?
Yeah, well, that's only one type. You know, there will be cyanotype, there will be silver, gelatin, silver process. So, okay, camera. So, old days camera, basically, there's few things. So, this is called a range finder. Okay, so this range finder, do you remember we keep saying parallax view? Okay, parallax view is what you see is really not what you, right there, you see through the camera. Because there's really not a lens, you cannot see what is through the lens. You only see above the lens. Because, do you see all the light, the red line indicate viewfinder, that round one on the far left, and the bounce, but how the image come in is from the window above the lens. You know, when you look at it from the behind, is on the left, okay? So that's what parallax view, because what you see is what really not what you're taking, all right? So that's called a range finder. And this called a double lens reflect. So the bottom lens is called object lens. That's the lens you take a picture. But the upper lens is a viewing lens, so you see it, okay? So you know the image is going to be lower than what you really see. So what is, you know, I used to collect, this double lens reflect. So the Rolleiflex, they make a adapter. You put it in the tripod, right? So you see the image, and then you flip that little knob. The camera will raise the same distance between the viewing lens and object lens. So then you take is, you think what you see, but I call it time parallax. So when you close the shutter, you really don't see that moment, what you're taking, because the shutter will block. Okay, so this is the third type we call a single lens reflect. So do you see, this is what you see from the lens. Through a mirror, reflect to a prism, and then go back to your viewfinder. Okay, but you think it's what you see, and then when they do that, they correct the image, because the image is no longer upside down. The double lens reflect camera, when you look at the viewfinder, actually the image is flipped. Yeah, left become right, right become left, like you look at the mirror. You have to understand, you look at the mirror, your image is flat, flipped.
That's why
So you don't think you look at the mirror, it's a real image.
these cameras, we can change it.
Yes. Well, nowadays everything's okay. So how this camera work? When you push the shutter, the mirror will flip out, because do you see the film? It's behind the mirror. So when the mirror flip, that moment, if something changed, the birds moved, the cat moved, dog moved, then you're not really see exactly what you're taking. Do you understand? So I call it a time parallax. So you understand, sometimes people say photography, just everything's real. No. So this is the original piece of equipment, we call it large format. So basically the lens, you see it upside down. So there's no viewfinder, they call it ground glass. It's a frosted glass. They have grids. The grid will help you to, so you have to have a black cloth cover your head. So make it dark so you can view it. Then you put a film in there, single sheet, you slide on the side, and you take a shutter shot, and then nobody. Nowadays, when I have my drawing class, I ask people about camera. Sometimes I wear a T-shirt with camera. The kid just glazed eyes look at me and say, "What are you talking about?" They don't even know camera. No camera. Okay, so how significant is the camera? You know, camera is not really recording exactly. A lot of time you understand when you take a picture, you take that part out of the context. You go to Grand Canyon and say, "Oh my God, it's so beautiful." But the Grand Canyon is that panoramic view, and then you only take that little tiny part out of it. It's real, you take it out, it's different, right? So there's a lot of subjectivity about how you choose that spot. So you have to understand, new reality. So which one's reality, right? We know Mona Lisa, but So what's the new reality? So because the camera become more and more sophisticated, Industrial Revolution. So the artists start thinking about, because people say camera is killing painters. Photography is killing painting, killing drawing. Okay? So that's what artists decide to depart. That's why the pipe, Magritte did the pipe, actually is a manifesto of modernism. Okay? Tell people, art is never about real, to do something look like something exists. Art is go beyond real. Okay? But Industrial Revolution helped artists to find a new route to create their own reality. You have to understand. Camera is the thing forced them to have to change in order to survive at the time. But Industrial Revolution will provide other things, such as different viewpoints. Okay, so this is Robert Delaunay, okay, very famous French painter, and because people can go up the architectural structures, so you can give you different perspective. You look down, you say, "Oh, I see patterns that when on the ground I don't see it." All of a sudden, you see a lot of things, and then Delaunay later getting into airplane. Okay, so he started, because that really changed his perspective. The Delaunay's later work, a lot of those are not just a farmland, but also propellers for the airplane. Because old days you see the propellers right in the front of the nose. So you can see it, and then he just combined everything. So all of a sudden, artists start going beyond reality, but you still see that city grids, right, Carl? But, circular, you go to a lot of farmland, the land is circular. Why? The irrigation. Because they have this, it's now they have to put a pipe under the ground because that's so hard, because when the combine go in there, combine, they will probably cut it. So they have this water tank. They will drive to a center of that field, then they have those arms spread out, and then they spin, so to irrigate the crops. So that's a lot of circular shape created. Okay, dimension. So the funny thing is, at the earlier 20th century, Einstein started exploring this relativity. Okay? And then, what is relativity? He have this theory about the fourth dimension. Okay? Which is, they call it space-time. Okay? Basically, it's because we only see 3 dimensions, right? We're talking about. But what is the first dimension started? We have to give credit to Picasso. Okay? Picasso is the one, Braque, but Picasso is the one really start. I don't even think Picasso at the time coordinated with Einstein. But Picasso really explored this space-time. You understand Cubism. What is Cubism? Cubism is all about space-time. Create the fourth dimension. Okay, let me explain. Why? So, of course, you may say, Picasso created the ugliest painting. Right? But you have to understand why he put a portrait, a woman profile, put both eyes on one side. Okay, what he tried to do is try to show you like a cube. So how many sides can you see a cube if it's not translucent? The most time you see is 3 sides. 3, 2, 1 depends on the angle. But you know how many sides is in the cube? 6 sides. 6 sides. Okay, so Picasso basically coincide with Einstein's relativity. Picasso tried to show you 6 sides simultaneously in one picture plane. So that's revolutionary. It doesn't matter how ugly his women's portraits are, but he's significant because really start this new idea about what you see. What I want you to see, camera cannot do that. But a painter can do it. I can show you 6 sides simultaneously. Okay? Then in Italy, there's a group and find a totally different angle to show the space-time, called a futurism. What is a futurism? Do you see the dog? The little wiener dog, right? Dachshund, right? That species. But you look, how many tails? How many feet? But what is this? This is trying to show the movement in a still painting. Okay? But this is actually start from a photography phenomenon called stroboscopic image. Okay. So which means you have your shutter open constantly. But at the same time, in the dark environment, you just use your strobe light. Plop, 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 plop. So every time the image will record it, when the strobe light lit image, then it will record the sequence on single photo paper or the film. Then you have this stroboscopic photography. Okay? So anybody, interested in the modern dance? So there's one choreographer named David Parson, based on New York. He has his own. He used to be Paul Taylor's dancer, but he started his new company. So he had a piece which used this technique. So he will be dark on the stage. He will holding a switch. So there will be a strobe light on the stage. Okay. So every time when he jump, he will push the button. But when he lands, it will be dark. So what you see is constantly he's floating in the air, because only time you see when the strobe light engaged. Okay, so he used that to create that kind of seamless whatever. But you have to understand, a lot of the motion picture is kind of the same idea. So what happened is Industrial Revolution, the train, right? So Kevin, you paint a train. So that's the train on the left, but because the speed, you feel like the speed. So they have that strobe effect. So you can see the movement, because Industrial Revolution really showed the locomotive, automotive, gave you the speed, airplane. That's a lot of things we don't see before or as quick. Okay, Buzioni, the Italian sculptor, did that moving. But this one, the Neil Consenting Staircase, who made it? Duchamp, Marcel Duchamp. Yeah, but you see how it just one. These are all create that 4th dimension, space-time. Even though I doubt they have the same conference with Einstein. But you can see coincidentally, artists seeking new way to create something that can show more than 3 dimensions. How significant that is. But yes, the entire modernism actually is reaction, sort of. Because how can you be more real or simulated image than a photography, right? But why painters say, why would we do that? Why is the purpose? Arts never start with that. But a lot of time you understand historically, art's being used, being hijacked by the politician, by the religious group, as a propaganda machine. So that's what reality sometimes through history is served a purpose for their agenda. But they never talk about art as art, except at the very beginning, prehistoric, I think people really want to, because a lot of times they don't understand, they don't comprehend. So some phenomenon, they say there's a like powerful being, so they have to portray that being so they can worship it. Yeah, or fabricating story. Then we go into the color world. Oh, I'm sorry, this thing is going long. Color is fascinating. Every time I talk about color, I updated color. So color, when you reality color is so bizarre. Bizarre. But our world is colorful, and then as artists, we create more colorful images. Right? So as artists, we all paint. Most people here do painting. Some people do photography and sculpture, or mixed media. So you have to aware there's a pigment mixture in terms of mixed paint, but there's optical mixture, which we tend to ignore. We have not knowledge about, because Caroline, or we just one day she walking out the studio and was talking about the color theory. Actually, Renaissance. You think about Renaissance, people are just amazing. Renaissance artists start kind of collecting idea about color. Okay, they really systematic. So when Da Vinci made a color wheel, there are 4 primary colors. Okay, you might color. If you're interested in the color wheel, John has posted a lecture about color wheels, so you can go log on to the VEXXET art to see that lecture about the thing. So why 4 primary colors? Red, yellow, blue, green. Because it's for a purpose. So, okay, when you look at here, that's what you spend all the money. What do you go to museum for? You see these studs, right? But what is basically is part of Monet's painting. So why artists doing that? Why you have to look at the painting from distance? Can't be too close. If too close, you only see thing you see is color dots. Do you see how? But now you put in the context, you say, oh, it's a haystack. Go back to how we see things, how we made. Okay, so we have retina, right? Iris, lens, whatever. Receive it. And you go back there. We have cones. So the cones will see 3 different colors, which is RGB. Okay, RGB sounds familiar to everybody? That's our old monitor, computer monitor. When they just start to have the color one, the RGB, or the TV. The old TV, once again, I tell my students about the tubes. They look at me and say, what do you mean tubes? I say, literally tubes. That's what you call the TV, tubes. Okay, so we have 3 cones. That's how we can see colors. Of course, you not only see red, green, blue, but you mix them. Just like the tube, the mix really is, they just project those 3 colors onto the screen in different locations, different lines. Then your eye mixing them. We call it optical mixture. Sometimes we have slight defect in our cones, cause we call it color blindness. Most common is the middle cone. A lot of male population. Okay. So when the green is not, but you still see green because you know when to start driving, when to stop, right? So your brain can somewhat correct it. But RGB is part of how we see things. Okay, so here's a TV projection really that's what they project, either dots or lines. Of course, you don't see that, you see images. But this is just a small part of it. But our eye, so that's why they designed the tubes with RGB to match with our eye receptors. Okay, so the printing, when you see this beautiful model actress, and by you look at that spot, what do you see? You see all these dots. They sometimes overlapping. Most time they juxtapose to each other. Okay, and then they have density. They have a size variations, and then so that's what printing. You use a cyan, yellow, magenta, plus black to get the darkness. Okay, so TV monitor, computer monitor at the time, they really have a hard way to figure out how to create a darkness. You know this guy? Sunday Park with Mr. Seurat, George. Yeah. So we kind of ignore that optical mixture, but Impressionists start aware that think about 1800s. So Monet and Renoir, they never thoroughly mix paint because when you mix paint together, you're going to affect the intensity. So they will put the paint side by side. Then the human, when look at the painting, their eye mixing those color. You put the blue and the magenta next to each other, then you see purple. Then you keep the intensity. You still have a color mixture, but that's no longer a pigment mixture. It's optical mixture on top of the pigment mixture. So Seurat did more extreme. He painting like a mosaic. He didn't even mix it. They just put them side by side, side by side, side by side. Create this pointillism. But from distance, where you squint your eye, you can see how these colors mix. Because certain blue and orange you mix, it can be dirty. But when you put this way, it's never going to be dirty because they're not touching each other. Your eye mixing them, not a pigment mixture. So artists using both pigment mixture and optical mixture. But in painting, since you're elementary school, preschool, kindergarten, no teacher tell you there's another color wheel, which called additive, which is dealing with, so additive versus subtractive. If you can see the blue, yellow. Is the yellow glowing? So this is a additive color theory. On the left side is a printer's color wheel. So what is three primary colors, RGB. When you mix them, then they become cyan, magenta, and yellow. You see, when they mix and then all together in the middle is white. Yeah. Because when you have a prism, you have a white light shooting in there, they will separate them into a rainbow light. But if you mix in rainbow light, you go backwards. So this is the light mixture, and then it's our optical mixture. So when you look at a light mixture, you see the ball in the middle is white. Right? When you have three lights all put in there, the center light is white. But then you see on the side, you see cyan, magenta, yellow on your right side. Because when you put these lights together, set design, people using set, they're using non-chromatic painting. They never paint color. So when they change color, they use light to change color. So same set, can be day, can be night, can be summer, can be winter. Just use light to manipulate. Okay? So the mixture is, but anyway. Then another phenomenon about this additive color, we called after image. Okay? This one, if you stare at this for like a certain say 10 seconds, 15 seconds, do you see the green square and the after image red? And you look at the white area. you steer at it, and then you look at the white area, then you will see different things. And here we go, magenta and cyan. Yes, that we call after image. Yeah. Okay, here, another thing about after image. Do you see a grid and the red circle, white circle, right? Do you see black inside white?
The dots are changing.
Yeah. But that black is the after image because the phenomenon, you know, you're not hallucinating. You're not seeing something. Yes, you see something's not there, but you do see it. You're not on drugs. You're not, you know, you're not high anything. But that's when you see something for long duration, your retina can get exhausted and then receptors, then the opposite thing will appear. So that is the thing, is how our eyes see things. So what is reality? Is a white dot or black dot? So you have to question, but those are things. Then we go to this famous piece. So Jesper Johns uses after image to create, they say, the true color. You have to look hard to see the true color of the flag. So what do? You look at the top one, you stare at, and then you look at the gray part. Do you see the dots in the black? Then you see the opposite. So green become red, black become white, orange become blue. But really, this is he questioning about, you know, our country stand for what is, you have to look at what is true color. Sometimes you may not see the true color. But he used this optical phenomenon called after image. Okay, it do exist. Okay, now we always say background, background, foreground. Okay, so let's try to forget about that. Let's talk about figure and the field. Because that's how our brain tell us foreground, background, foreground, background. So this is a different variety of, we call it Peter, Paul, goblet. Peter on one side, Paul on the other side, and the goblet in the middle. So which one is foreground, which one is background? Huh? Depends. Yes. If you see goblets, then Paul and Peter will go down to the. But you have to make sure you take Peter, Paul out. What happened? Goblet disappears. Vice versa. But when we say how word can control the way we see things, when you say positive, it's always more important. You see negative, it's always have connotation, think about this, inferior. Okay? Then you already decide which ones you need to pay more attention, which one you don't. Actually, you should pay equal attention. So don't say background anymore, okay? Because they're not back. They serve the purpose, just as important, okay? So I will use this famous portrait photographer named Richard Avedon. So he shoot a lot of celebrities and beautiful models, he's passed away already, but he's very famous in the 70s, 80s, these are very famous, of course, they get the circus elephants. Now, no circus has elephant anymore. I used to work for Circus Flora, which come here every year at Chaparral Park. And that Flora is the elephant name. So, yeah, I used to work and set up the big tent and doing the spotlight for the trapeze. So I didn't run away with the circus. I stayed. So Avedon study this, think about photography always like backdrop. That's a background, right? And then you have the image in front. And then he decided, this is too limited. So he started doing no backdrop. So they call the seamless white photo. Okay, so he basically created his little photo booth. We have one across the hallway. They still have evidence of the little thing. Well, they recreated it. So they can shoot a thing, they have flashlight, you don't see the background at all. So there's no background, basically absence of background. Yeah, because you don't see horizon. Okay, so then the background, a foreground, so this in photography we call the depth of the field. So you can manipulate the shutter speed and then the aperture to create blur where you want everything's clear. So this one is a very shallow depth and field. So we'll give you the blur so you can emphasize whatever that leaf is. So there's no noise around it, visual noise, right? So this is a good example. So if you have a small aperture, 1/8, then you will have much deeper on the left side. But if you have 2.4 aperture, wide open, your lens, then you will have this shallow, okay? But you have to understand, this is just in the way we create. But see, like this, M.C. Escher again, and he's so amazing how about you take anything out, then the other won't exist. But you see how, which one's white horse is background, black horse is foreground, vice versa? No. But you see how cleverly he just did that. So you can see they're in and the yang. You take them apart, the universe will disappear. Okay, because that circle will disappear. That's yin yang sign. So you make sure you understand how there's no such a thing as foreground. What is important? The mirror is more important. Everything is symbolism. You don't see the priest until you look in the mirror. So the back there is more important than the front. Yeah, this is Van Dyck. And the same thing here. A lot of things, you see the sacrificial lamb. That why foreground? Because people try to break this notion that way from 1600s. Money, right? So what is important? You know, the girl back there. So let's now create, this is Margaret, okay? You little three guys there, peeping through them. That is important. And he really did a lot, which one background, which one foreground. So he really started blur this under the notion of which is wallpaper, is window, is the lady or the guy have no face. Hoffman, which one's foreground, which one background? Red, blue, or the dark? Pop art, Mona Lisa, or Marilyn Monroe?
So what would be most important here?
Yeah, it depends on how, but really if you have your understanding of background, foreground, then everything will become, yeah. I think this is Miro. Which one? The white, the black, the blue? So you have to understand, when you constantly see, then you can record it, then you can store, then you can adding into your creativity. So this whole process, because that's what the purpose of what we do, right? So a lot of times, what is being seen, what is unseen, right? You know this very famous piece, creation of Adam, right? What is seen? What is seen, right? What is really not seen? But that's something that why we don't see it. But artists' purpose, their intent is there. So who created Adam? Okay? Question mark. But at the time they, at least him, Michelangelo, start raising that. So, but when our cognition to lock it, right? You may not see until someone tell you.
Well, that's why I had you go up and show me the old woman.
Yeah. Yes. So we talk about relativity, now we talk about string theory. So they talk about what if it's ninth dimension, or someone says 11th and 13th, but we cannot see it, right? We only see, say, 3 or 4th dimension because we know the time is space-time is another dimension. But how about the 13th dimension? But you understand, artists always try, or writers, musicians, always try to find some way to convey the things is not, you cannot really sensationally receive it. Okay? So this is a Magritte. Magritte really made a lot of statements, not by word, but by his work. So now we talk about how visualize the invisible. But that's art's purpose, right? How you visualize air. Sometimes you can do a cloud is air and then wind blow, but Impressionists really use light to convey air. Oh, know that. But do you see the face? You see eyelashes? You see a horse? Look like a horse. Look like something, but Yeah, but sometimes, I don't know. Chagall, how many images do you see? There are a lot of overlappings, right? Superimposings, hidden images. Maybe this is talking about a duration of time. There's certain lineage of time. Once upon a time, they put into one painting. Yes?
What was string theory?
Well, string theory is a kind of quantum physics. They try to tell you there's a lot of dimensions exist, but we don't see it. Okay? Or they try to prove it. Scientists try to prove it, just like Einstein tried to prove, try to approve the, convince people to understand what relativity is. Sometimes can be very abstract. So what I use the string theory is just basically scientists go their route, but artists have been going their own routes. Another Magritte's painting. Maybe Magritte at the time already see the alien that we don't see. Maybe alien sitting here listen with us. But we cannot see it because they're in the 11th dimension. Right? So this is Carl's favorite piece. But what do you see? What do you see here? Carl can see it because Carl sees a city, which is a city, New York City. That is, Boogie Woogie is all about New York City, but it's not just about a little city or plan, a blueprint of city planning. It's about everything, the city, the jazz music, the honking the horns, the ambulance, the jackhammer, the scaffolding, whatever New York has it, it's here. So, but a lot of people, they don't see this. But you see here, he's showing something, by this is showing the invisibles. So that's what they call Boogie Woogie. So what is this? Alien. Kandinsky. Yeah. Got to be something. I see a sailboat with a, mast, something, something.
But Kandinsky had a lot of background in music, classical music.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's what he called his work in composition number 25.
Yeah, this music, yeah.
Here we go. It's, universe, Hubble scope, try to capture some images, or landing strips of alien ship. But something you don't see in the real quote-unquote reality, right? But why are these people doing it? Because they really try to show something that is, how do you make an object become a subject? So I have the Big Apple story. Guess who had the Big Apple story? Arthur. Do you remember Big Apple story? Everybody?
Sadly, I remember.
Okay, so that's from our own artist. So when you look at apple, apple is object. It's just object, right? It just put there, you can feel and touch it, and you feel that material. But when you do a big apple, then it becomes a subject. Apple going much deeper than what is the meaning attached to that object. Do you understand that? Because Arthur always say, that's right proportion. And we always say, that's big. But Arthur say that consciously, subconsciously. I can see his subconscious intent is, he think is big, is right proportion because it's all about big apple. When the apple in that context, in that side, the apple go beyond just an object. It become a subject. Okay? Then your art going to another level. So, of course, Arthur's still not convincing. I think Arthur's subjective, subconscious intent is still overwhelmed the conscious intent at this point. But we all see that big apple just right place because it's about big apple. You know what I'm talking about? Just like a boogie woogie is about big apple. Same thing.
So it's a symbolism.
Absolutely. But when you have a object become something beyond objects, right? Then, like here, sunflower, right? It's just object with a vase. But how can it become a subject? Beyond, it's more than that. There's a lot of conceptual attachment. Yes?
Well, Robert's attributing, I think he's attributing more depth to my apple than it deserves.
No. But a lot of times, we do things is our intent. You got to have an intent. You got to have purpose. Otherwise, you're not doing it. So what do you do with a purpose? Sometimes you're not clear 100% what that purpose is. So we call it the subconscious intent. Okay, you just feel it. But you cannot really go into the level to really intellectualize it yet. Okay? That's what critique is. Critique, you self-critique, you try to raise it at that level, and then you have critique, other people help you from your subconscious intent to your conscious intent. Okay? So I'm not giving you the, I'm not adding that. It's not there. It's there, we all can see it. But, that's the story. But you look at this, how that becomes spirituality, become, the heaven for him, right? So when we look at sunflower, just objects. But now you have to understand there's much more attached to that, deeper. Okay, so here, so you look at, I say object, not necessarily just like lifeless thing, but you look at this woman, it's, image is object, right? But it becomes subject because she represents, symbolize, signify more than just this individual. It's the whole group of, in that period of time, the entire society. So she's go beyond just what she there alone drinking coffee or tea. So all of a sudden, this one, so simple, have so much to offer. You have to understand these people, because what do you see, what do you not see, what do you see here, right? What is beyond what do you see? The house objects, the barn objects, the image. But then it's way beyond that. Way beyond that. So you can see these people who, these are American artists, monumental pieces. Why they're so important? A lot of people don't, they think, oh, the skill, the technique is so good, da. But it's more than that, much more. So that is art. That's art. That's art. Yeah.
So we have an individual experience a situation, but we collectively can all relate to it. And it could be true for us.
Well, and then you share with others.
Yes.
So how to be creative? Everything being done. You look at our history. There's nothing. People say there's nothing new, right? Nothing more you can do. Before you say that. Well, this one I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's photo manipulation. But these are real. Okay. So I'm using architecture. I say, oh, it's just a place, people live in there, you know. But you can see they can just go beyond what your ordinary house, a container, human activities refined, you know, contained in there. But you look at these places. But these are real things. Okay? You know, here Dorothy probably still there. You know? I think there's some museum. But hey, you think everything being done, you think that's it. Look at this. We talk about stability, symmetry. You know, and then this architect used that symmetry, used that stability building, but put in the totally, right? Last section, we're going to finish in a few minutes. So HI versus AI. What is HI? Human intelligence, right? So now it's all about AI. So what is AI? What is similarity AI? What is we can learn from AI? So these are the controversial pieces. So one is created by AI, one is created by human. Which one?
The left one is AI.
The left one's AI because you know it.
Well, I know. Yeah, exactly.
Let's look at the hands.
Wow. Yeah. But but the old days photography is, you think about if it's 1800, the photographer, the camera. Okay, so yes, on the left is AI created image, but this one won the world's competition. Wow. Then the first prize, and then the guy created this came out and say, sorry, I cannot accept it because this is AI created. 2 generations, mother and daughter. How convincing, right? But the other one is snow with this flamingo standing in there. You say, it cannot be real. That's real.
Or white sugar sand.
Yeah, but that's real. That's real. It's a sand, probably sand, because you can see ocean there. Yeah. Yeah, well, it's a sand, and then you see the, the ocean far away. But because it's so white, you feel like this is snow. You know, that's not. But one thing about what human can learn from AI, I keep telling my students, my kids, I said, if who can success is who can self-learning. You got to self-learn. If the professor, instructor gave you assignment, you got to go beyond it. You got to do your own research. You got to find out. Like Barbara say, someone say, oh, who made that elephant, right? So you go beyond. You just, okay, I done the elephant, but where did it come from? How did it come from? What is attached to it? Why did people doing this? So that is what we need to learn from AI, because AI have that thing. You give them the data, and then they can extend it. They will self-learning. So that's what we have to do.
What's AI, what does it stand for?
Artificial intelligence. If you want more AI questions, ask David. He's taking class. So I would just list something, but there's more than that. Okay, so what do you see? You have to be consciously see things. So you can store, you can have your capacity, right? So everything stored this. Your brain really have, I don't know, way bigger than the computer. But a lot of time, you're getting older, there's a little bit corrupted files and, and then you don't know where the location is. So, but curiosity, I think curiosity, always curious. So that will stimulate your brain, and then you just put more information, put a lot of things in there. You got to record it. If you don't see it, you're not recording it. Okay? So discover, explore, go to different places, try different things, talk to different people you hate, people you're afraid of. Just go there. There's one guy, like tattoo on something, and walk funky, and then the pen drops halfway. But you don't know. You talk to him, he's a nice guy. But I'm not saying you have to do that, but I'm just saying, always question. Don't take things as what it is. When you watch news, you watch TV, question. Is that true? Someone, a politician, tell you something. Is that true? Your teacher tells you something. Robert tells you something. You say, is that true? You question. You got to question. Don't take it. We're so gullible. We're too gullible. Okay, especially the election. All the people, the ad, and you don't know. Russian made something. Iranian made something. Chinese made something. Okay, you take in, you're in the wrong place. Okay, observation, collecting, store, reporting, observation. Sometimes don't just sit there just observing. That's important because, and then when you have these, then you can recollect. So our creative process is really about how you recollect whatever's stored there. Then you reassemble, just like your dream. Your dream is a funky assembly of your life history. Okay? And then that's fascinating. So your art should be like that, But how you can, sometimes we use images as reference. But those are just reference. Those can trigger something inside of you. You stored that at the trigger point. Then you create. Then the things start pouring out. Then you creating. Then when you recollect, then you reconstruct. You can be visualized, you can verbalize, people write, or you can auditorialize, whatever. You can make music, but all these process, I think, kind of important, but it'll go back to how you see things. You got to make sure you see things. Get a double take. Don't let your cognition lock up. So you want to unlock it, then you have more possibilities. For me, it's the same thing. Sometimes I just lock it and then make a really quick decision, and then it's wrong or incomplete, right? So, all these things, there are probably more things, but what do you see constantly? You try to take it in and record it so you can recollect it. Sometimes random, sometimes something stimulates you, say, oh, I think I can do something like that because I have certain experience. So you never know. Sometimes you look at the social media or you just travel different places, talking to other people. It give you some ideas, fresh. You need that trigger point. You need that spark. And then you have a fuel already within you and then just ignite. So, right? They help you a little bit for how we see things. Don't take seeing for granted. It's more than that. You got to go beyond. All right. Thank you, everybody, and.